I laughed at first, because how could she mean that? I raised her, held her when she was sick, worked 2 jobs so she could have braces, birthday parties, a shot at college. But the next morning, she left a bus ticket on the counter. No note, no hug, just a silent order to disappear. So I did. I left that night without a word. No one asked where I went. No one called. And for 2 years, I slept in shelters and played guitar on street corners just to eat. Then one afternoon, she found me, her eyes wide, her voice shaking. What happened next was rather unexpected. I will tell you everything. First, let me thank you for your continuous support. If you love stories like this one, support us by subscribing to this channel and comment where you are watching us from. It will be great to hear from you. Now let's jump into the details of what happened. I used to build houses for a living. Big ones, small ones, the kind with arched windows and the kind with vinyl siding and peeling porches. I could frame a room in my sleep, knew how to run wire behind drywall without leaving so much as a ripple. There's a kind of pride in working with your hands, in seeing something stand because you made it stand. But nothing prepares you for the silence after retirement. When the phone stops ringing, when your knees ache in the morning, and nobody's waiting on you to fix the water heater anymore. My name's Richard Evans. I turned 62 the year my wife died. Her name was Marie, and she used to hum Patsy Cline while washing dishes. Breast cancer took her in less than 8 months from diagnosis to goodbye. I still remember how her pillow smelled like lavender, even when her hair was gone. After the funeral, the house got real quiet. Too quiet. So when Natalie, my only daughter, invited me to move in just for a while, it felt like a lifeline. She had a townhouse in the suburbs, about 45 minutes from where Marie and I lived. I boxed up our life in 3 days, labeled every carton with black marker, and stored most of it in her garage. "Dad, don't bring too much," she had said over the phone, her voice tight like she was balancing 100 things at once. "Just your clothes and important stuff. We'll make it work." That's what she said. We'll make it work. At first, it wasn't so bad. She had a spare room, small but clean. Her son, Jamie, my grandson, was 6 then, with a gap-toothed smile and questions that never stopped coming. I liked picking him up from school. We'd stop for Slurpees and talk about dinosaurs or how he thought his teacher secretly lived at the school. I fixed things around the house, too. Repaired a broken cabinet hinge, unclogged the bathroom sink, even installed a better shower head. I wasn't trying to earn my keep. I just didn't know how not to be useful. But it didn't take long for things to shift. Natalie started coming home later. The cheerful "Hi, Dad" turned into tight nods, her eyes already scrolling through her phone as she kicked off her shoes. Sometimes, her husband Rick would glance up from his laptop, give me a quick "hey," then disappear into his office. I tried to stay out of the way. I'd cook dinner when I could, clean dishes, keep the TV volume low. Still, the air in that house felt colder by the week. One night, maybe 5 months in, I overheard her in the kitchen whispering into her phone. "No, he's still here. Yeah, it's like having a 4th kid. I can't breathe. I swear to God, if he leaves dishes in the sink one more time." Her voice dropped lower, but the sting was already there. I stood in the hallway holding a stack of towels I'd just folded, suddenly unsure if I should even enter the room. It wasn't about the dishes. It wasn't about space. It was about me being there, taking up air, making noise, being visible. I told myself I was imagining things, that maybe she was just stressed. Natalie had always been a go-getter, juggling work and motherhood like a circus act. She was 6 when she built her first office in her closet, complete with a notepad, a crayon phone, and an employee's only sign taped to the door. Marie and I used to laugh about how she was going to rule the world someday. But it turns out the higher some people climb, the less patience they have for anyone standing still. One Tuesday afternoon, I accidentally knocked over a glass of juice onto her laptop. It wasn't even a lot, just a splash near the trackpad. But she lost it, threw her hands in the air, and shouted, "Jesus, Dad, can't you be careful? That's my life on there." I froze. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I'll clean it up." She didn't say anything for a minute, just stared at the wet keys like they'd betrayed her. Then she muttered, "You're just a burden now, Dad." At first, I thought I'd misheard her. I let out this awkward little laugh, like she was joking, like maybe we'd both laugh about it later. But she didn't laugh. She didn't even look at me. She just wiped her laptop with a towel and walked away. I stood there for a long time, rag in hand, stomach clenched like a fist. A burden. Not her father, not a guest, not even someone she loved. Just a burden. The word echoed in my head all evening. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the recliner in the living room, the one I used to nap in with Jamie curled on my chest, and stared at the ceiling fan spinning in slow, lazy circles. The next morning, she left for work early. I walked into the kitchen to find a Greyhound ticket sitting on the counter. One way, to a city 4 hours away. No note, no explanation, just the ticket. She didn't come home that night, or the next. I packed a bag, just some clothes, my old Gibson guitar, a shaving kit. I took a cab to the bus station and sat in the terminal watching strangers say goodbye like they meant it. Nobody said goodbye to me. Nobody knew I was leaving. I didn't cry when the bus pulled out. Not then. I just watched the city shrink behind us, holding that guitar case like it was the only part of me still worth something. I don't know if you've ever ridden a Greyhound bus alone, with your whole life stuffed into a duffel bag and no one waiting for you on the other end. But there's something about it that humbles a man in a way nothing else can. The seats creak. The windows smear every light into a blur. And everyone rides quiet, like they're carrying their own reasons for being there, but no one dares to ask. I didn't have a plan. That ticket was to Pittsburgh, a city I hadn't set foot in since I was 21 and just out of trade school. I picked it because it was far enough that she wouldn't run into me at a grocery store, but close enough that if Jamie ever asked where I was, she wouldn't have to lie too hard. I sat near the back. There was a kid a few rows up wearing earbuds and nodding off, and a woman with a crying baby across the aisle. I didn't mind the noise. It gave me something to focus on besides the knot in my stomach. I kept replaying her words in my head. You're just a burden now. Over and over, like they were scratched into the inside of my skull. I wanted to believe she didn't mean it. That maybe she was just angry, tired, pushed too far. But it wasn't just the words. It was the way she handed me that ticket. Flat, impersonal, like she was giving directions to a stranger on the street. No hug, no explanation. Just go. That was the hardest part. Not the leaving. The silence. The bus rumbled along the highway through the night. Somewhere around midnight, I finally allowed myself to cry. I turned my head to the window so no one would see, but the tears came hard and sudden, like rain breaking through a cracked roof. I wasn't just mourning the daughter I thought I knew. I was mourning my role in this world. A father who'd outlived his usefulness. A man with nothing left to build. I reached Pittsburgh just after dawn. October air bit at my cheeks as I stepped off the bus. The station was a tired little building that smelled like stale coffee and ammonia. I had $72 in my wallet and a prepaid cell phone with no texts, no missed calls, no one expecting me. For the first time in my life, I was homeless. I wandered for hours that day, kept walking until my legs ached and my shoulders burned from the weight of the bag. I found a church that offered warm meals in the evenings and a bench under a bus shelter where I could sit without getting hassled. That first night, I used my guitar case as a pillow and my jacket as a blanket. The cold pressed through every seam of my clothes, but I couldn't feel it. Not really. My body was there, but my mind was still back in that townhouse, standing at the counter, staring at that one-way ticket like it had all the answers. Around noon the next day, I took out my guitar. I hadn't touched it in months. It still smelled faintly like Marie's old perfume, Chanel No. 5. She used to say music was what kept you from turning into your father. I hadn't believed her then. But now, sitting on a cracked bench outside a used bookstore, I strummed a few chords and let my voice out, soft and slow. I'm just a shadow on your wall, a name you don't recall, but I remember every word you said. A man walking by dropped a crumpled 5 into my open case. I nodded, stunned. A few minutes later, someone else tossed in $1, then a 10. And just like that, I wasn't invisible anymore. It wasn't about the money, though God knows I needed it. It was about being seen, heard. Every note I played felt like reclaiming a part of myself I'd buried long before Natalie handed me that ticket. By the end of that week, I had almost $50 in ones and fives. I found a group of other street performers who showed me where to play without getting chased off, which cops were cool, and which ones weren't. One of them, a guy named Lionel, had been playing the same corner for over 10 years. He was the one who said, "If you can make him cry, you'll eat. If you can make him feel, you'll live." That stuck with me. I kept playing. Day after day. Rain, wind, didn't matter. And the people kept coming. Not crowds. Not yet, but enough to keep me afloat. Someone filmed me one afternoon singing an old Sam Cooke song. I didn't think much of it. Just another person with a phone. But 2 weeks later, a girl approached me with tears in her eyes. "My mom showed me your video," she said. "She said your voice sounds like what her dad used to play for her when she was little." I blinked. I didn't know anyone posted it. "It's all over TikTok," she said. "You're amazing." I didn't even know what TikTok was. But I thanked her. And when she left, I sat there for a long time, just holding that guitar, thinking about how strange it all was. How you could lose everything, be handed a ticket out of someone's life, and still somehow end up finding pieces of yourself on a sidewalk you never meant to stand on. I had no address, no safety net, no daughter calling to check on me. But I had a voice, and people were listening. And then, almost 2 years to the day after Natalie gave me that ticket, I heard a voice I hadn't heard in so long it stopped me mid-verse. "Dad." I looked up, and there she was. Natalie, standing on the corner, holding a coffee she wasn't drinking, her face frozen like she'd seen a ghost. Her eyes darted between me and the small crowd gathered nearby. "Dad," she said again. "What are you? Why are you? Is this you?" I strummed the last chord and slowly stood up. "Hey, Natalie," I said quietly. "Didn't expect to see you here." She blinked, like she was still catching up. You're on the internet. I mean, people know who you are." I nodded. "Yeah, I guess so." She looked around, then back at me. "Can we talk?" And just like that, the girl who once handed me a one-way bus ticket had found me again. Only this time, I was the one standing on solid ground. I didn't answer her right away. Truthfully, I wasn't sure what to say. There's something surreal about seeing the face that once looked past you now staring like it finally sees you. Natalie stood there with her mouth half open, clutching her coffee like it was the only solid thing left in her world. She looked thinner, tired. There were streaks of gray in her hair I'd never seen before. But it was her eyes that gave her away. Behind all that surprise and confusion, there was something else. Guilt. Or maybe recognition. I gestured to the nearby bench. "You want to sit?" She nodded like she wasn't quite in control of her body, just following commands. We sat, and for a moment, the street noise swallowed us. The hiss of brakes, the hum of conversation, the occasional chime of a phone notification. All of it made her flinch. "You're really out here," she said finally, as if trying to confirm that this wasn't some social experiment or twisted game. I nodded. "Been almost 2 years now." "But why?" "I mean," she shook her head. "Why didn't you call? I would have helped." I didn't think. I never wanted it to be like this. That stung more than I expected. I looked straight ahead, at the sidewalk, at the line of people waiting for coffee across the street. "You gave me a bus ticket, Natalie," I said, my voice calm but firm. "No note. No goodbye. No way back. You don't do that to someone you want to help." She winced, and I saw her swallow hard, like my words were stones going down. I didn't mean, "God, Dad." I was just overwhelmed. Rick had lost his job. Jamie was acting out at school. I was working 70-hour weeks. And then you were just there, every day, and she cut herself off, biting her lip. I snapped. "I know that now. I shouldn't have said what I said. Or done what I did." I kept my hands folded over my guitar. My knuckles felt stiff from the cold, but I welcomed the discomfort. It kept me present. "I get overwhelmed too," I said. "You think I wasn't overwhelmed when your mom died? You think I didn't wake up every morning in that empty house wondering what the hell I was supposed to do with myself? But I still showed up. For you. For Jamie. I did my best not to be in the way." She looked down. Her fingers traced the rim of her coffee lid. I saw her throat tighten. "You were never in the way," she whispered. I almost laughed. "Natalie, come on." She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were glassy now, red around the rims. "I was scared, okay?" she said. "Scared of losing control. Of failing. Of not being able to carry it all. You were just another thing I couldn't manage. And I hated myself for thinking that. So I pushed you out. Because it was easier than admitting I needed help. I let that sit between us. The truth, raw and bruised. Not an excuse. Just a confession. I didn't want to need help. I said, finally. I wanted to matter. I still do. She nodded slowly. I know. For a few minutes, we just sat in silence. People passed us by without a second glance, unaware that a father and daughter were trying to dig out from years of buried pain on that cold street corner. Then she said the thing I didn't expect. Come back with me. I blinked. What? I mean it, she said, her voice gaining urgency. We have space now. Rick's gone, divorced a year ago. Jamie's always asking about you. We have a guest room. You don't have to do this anymore. I studied her face. She meant it. I could see that. There was no malice in her eyes, no pride, no performance. Just a daughter reaching out, trying to rewind the tape and start the scene over. But it was too late for rewinds. I stood up slowly and slung the guitar over my shoulder. You know something funny? I said, I've made more friends on this sidewalk than I did living under your roof. Out here, people don't expect me to disappear when I become inconvenient. She stood up too. Dad, I made a mistake. I know that. But can't we try again? I'm not angry, I said. I'm not trying to punish you. But I've built something here, me. I didn't think I had anything left. Turns out, I do. I can't walk back into that house and pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. I think she knew, deep down, that I wasn't just being stubborn. I wasn't trying to guilt her. I was protecting something I'd worked hard to rebuild. Myself. I'll think about it, I added, softening slightly. But for now, this is home. She blinked rapidly, trying to contain whatever emotion was welling up behind her eyes. Okay, she said, her voice small. Okay. Before she walked away, she reached into her bag and handed me something. An envelope. Photos, she said, of Jamie, just in case. I took it and nodded. Thanks. And then she walked off. No tears. No big farewell. Just a woman quietly grappling with the consequences of a choice she couldn't undo. I stood on that corner for a long time after she left. Long enough for the wind to shift and the late afternoon sun to spill across the pavement. I opened the envelope and looked at the pictures. Jamie at a science fair. Jamie holding a soccer trophy. Jamie smiling with 2 missing front teeth. He still looked like he remembered me. I sat back down, took out my guitar, and began to play. It started with a voicemail. One of those long, rambling kinds where someone talks themselves into circles, hoping the right words will fall out somewhere along the way. I was sitting in my room at the shelter that night, my temporary spot while the church fixed a radiator pipe. The bunk bed creaked every time I shifted. I had just finished folding the last of my socks when the phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number, but the area code gave it away. Home. I listened in silence. The phone pressed against my ear like I needed to hear it through my bones. Hey, Dad. It's Natalie. I don't know if this is still your number. I got it from the cafe owner who said you sometimes come in on Thursdays. Anyway, I wanted to say I'm sorry. Again, I know I said that before, but I didn't really say it right. Not like I meant it. Not like you deserved. There was a pause. A shaky breath. I was ashamed of myself. Of what I did. That ticket, that wasn't just cruel. It was cowardly. I pushed you out when I should have pulled you closer. I told myself I was too busy, too stressed, too tired. But really, I was just too scared of what it meant to need you. Another pause. I saw you on that corner, and you looked more like yourself than you ever did in my house. That broke me a little, because I realized I had no idea what you'd been carrying all those months. I didn't ask. I just assumed you were fine. I'm sorry, Dad. I mean it. She ended the message with a long sigh, like she was exhaling something she'd been holding in for years. I love you. I know that might not mean much anymore, but I do. And if you ever decide you want to come home, I'll be here. Click. I played the message twice. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I did. And that's what made it so hard. She meant it. Every word. But meaning something doesn't undo it. It doesn't reverse time. It doesn't erase the night I lay on a bench, praying I didn't freeze in my sleep. It doesn't fix the ache of wondering if my grandson thought I abandoned him. Meaning something. Well, it's just not always enough. Still, I called her back. I don't know why. Maybe because even forgiveness needs somewhere to land. She picked up on the first ring. Dad. Yeah, I said. It's me. The silence that followed was thick, like neither of us knew how to stand on new ground without breaking it. Thank you for calling, she said, voice small. I got your message. She waited. It meant a lot, I added. You said what needed saying. Another pause. I miss you, she said. Jamie misses you. He's in this phase now where everything's a joke, but sometimes I catch him looking at the front door like he's waiting for someone to walk through it. I know he's thinking about you. I swallowed hard. That boy had wrapped himself around my heart before he could even talk. I used to rock him in my arms on Marie's old porch swing, humming, "You Are My Sunshine," while he played with my beard. Tell him I miss him too, I said. You can give him my number. I already did, she said quickly. He's been working up the nerve to call you. Good. He's got nothing to be nervous about. More silence. This one different, lighter somehow. Like neither of us wanted to hang up, but we didn't know what came next. I meant what I said, she added. You always have a place here, Dad. If you want it. I closed my eyes. I appreciate that, I said, and I meant it. But I can't go back. Because of what I did. Partly. But mostly because I'm not the same man who left your porch with a Greyhound ticket in his hand. She went quiet again. I've rebuilt something here, I continued. Piece by piece. I found dignity. Purpose. Music. I'm not just surviving, Natalie. I'm living. Going back would be like crawling back into a smaller version of myself. And I can't do that. Not even for you. She sniffed quietly on the other end. Not crying. Just processing. I get it, she said finally. I hate it. But I get it. That's when something shifted in me. I'd braced for a fight, a guilt trip, a last-ditch plea. But what I got was something stronger. Respect. Maybe for the first time in years. Maybe you can come visit, I said. Next time Jamie has a break from school. I'll take you both to the cafe. They have this blueberry scone that'll make you believe in God again. She laughed, a real one. I could almost hear her shoulders drop. I'd like that. Before we hung up, I said one more thing. You know, Natalie, forgiveness isn't always about erasing what happened. Sometimes it's just about deciding it doesn't get to define you anymore. I'm trying, she whispered. I can tell. We said goodbye, and I put the phone down on the windowsill. Outside, the city hummed beneath a sky streaked in orange and gold. I stepped back into the night and walked toward the corner where I'd made a new name for myself, my guitar slung over my shoulder like an old friend. People were already gathering, smiling, waiting, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had everything I needed. It wasn't even 2 weeks after our phone call when I saw the post. My friend Lionel, the saxophonist who played outside the Whole Foods on 7th, found it first. He handed me his phone one afternoon, smirking like he'd just discovered a secret he wasn't sure he wanted to keep. Your daughter's gone viral again, he said. I raised an eyebrow. Again. He tilted the screen toward me. There it was, a long Facebook post with a soft-filtered photo of Natalie and Jamie, taken from what looked like the park near her townhouse. The caption hit me in the chest. Sometimes, life brings you full circle. My father was homeless. Yes, was. He sang on the street corners with nothing but a guitar and grit. But I never gave up on him. I knew the man he used to be was still in there. And today, I'm proud to say he's back in our lives. Stronger than ever. Never be ashamed of your story. It might inspire someone else's. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. This is so beautiful. You're such a good daughter. Tears. What a story. I read it 3 times, then handed the phone back to Lionel without a word. My face felt hot. My jaw locked. You okay? He asked, his voice careful. No, I said. Not really. It wasn't just the lie. It was the gall. The narrative she spun. She never gave up on me? I hadn't even seen the inside of her house since that day she handed me the bus ticket. Hadn't accepted $1, a meal, a bed. She'd told me she was sorry. She had tried. But this wasn't about making things right. This was about making herself look good. It felt like betrayal all over again, just a cleaner version, with better lighting and hashtags. I didn't call her. I didn't respond. But I thought about it. Oh, I thought about it. What finally pushed me wasn't anger. It was Jamie. He called me later that night. His voice was deeper than I remembered. He was growing fast, but he still said, "Hey, Grandpa." with the same spark he used to have when I walked through the door with root beer and licorice in my pockets. I saw your video, he said. You are like famous. I chuckled. Not quite. You gonna be on TV? Doubt it. Then he hesitated. Is it true? That you were, living outside? Yeah, I said. It's true. He was quiet for a moment. Why didn't Mom help you? I closed my eyes. That was the question, wasn't it? She had her reasons, I said. And I had mine. But you're okay now, right? I am. More than okay. I wish I'd known, he said, his voice barely a whisper. That's when I decided. Enough was enough. The next morning, I walked into the cafe where Natalie had first tracked me down. The owner, Regina, gave me a look like she already knew something was brewing. I nodded at her and asked to use the back room for a minute. She handed me the key and a cup of coffee without asking questions. I sat down, pulled out my phone, and wrote a public post of my own. Nothing flashy, just the truth. 2 years ago, my daughter handed me a bus ticket and told me I was a burden. I left her home that night with no job, no plan, and no place to sleep. What followed was the hardest season of my life, but it was also where I found myself again. On street corners, in music, in the kindness of strangers. Recently, I learned that my story has been retold in a way that paints my daughter as the hero who rescued me. That's not what happened. We're working on healing. But I rebuilt my life without her help. That doesn't make her evil. It just makes the truth messier than a Facebook post can hold. To anyone out there feeling discarded or unseen, you're not a burden. You're becoming. I clicked post and let it go. It spread faster than I expected. The comments came in waves. Some people praised the honesty. Others attacked Natalie, which I didn't like, but I also didn't jump in to defend her. The truth had its own legs now. It didn't need me to prop it up. She called me that night. Her voice was sharp. What the hell, Dad? Nice to hear from you too, I said, keeping my tone even. You made me look like a monster. No, I said. I made you look like what happened. If that bothers you, maybe ask why. She didn't respond right away. I could hear her breathing, uneven. I just wanted to be proud of something, she said. I wanted people to see that her voice cracked, that we came back from it. We didn't come back, Natalie. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that's okay. Not everything gets a clean ending. She was crying now, softly. The kind of cry you hide with a hand over your mouth. I knew that sound. I'm tired, she whispered. Me too. Another long silence. I'll take the post down, she said. I didn't mean to hurt you again. I believe you, I said. But that doesn't change things. No, I agreed. It doesn't. Before we hung up, she said, you really don't want to come back, do you? I thought about it. About warm dinners, about Jamie, about second chances. But I also thought about silence. The kind that swells in a house where you're only tolerated. No, I said gently. I don't. She didn't argue. She just said, okay. And for once, that word didn't sound like surrender. It sounded like understanding. There's a corner on 12th and Fremont where the morning sun hits just right. It's not a fancy part of town. There's a laundromat with flickering lights, a taco truck that serves coffee if you ask nicely, and a florist who arranges bouquets with more care than some surgeons. But that corner? It became mine. Not in a legal sense, but in a spiritual one. My feet knew the cracks in the sidewalk. My voice knew how it bounced off the brick. And the regulars, God, the regulars, became family in a way blood sometimes forgets how to be. Regina, the cafe owner, started calling me Richie, like we'd grown up together. Lionel still played his saxophone across the street, and sometimes we'd time our sets like duets, making the city stop and listen for once. I made enough to rent a small studio apartment a few blocks away. Nothing fancy, but clean. Warm. Mine. I kept my days simple. Coffee by 7. Playing by 9. I'd rest in the afternoons, write a bit, sometimes record covers on my cheap little phone mic, and post them online. One day, a local paper did a write-up, called me the corner crooner. I laughed at that. Marie would have rolled her eyes. She always said I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket until I found the right pain to pour into it. Pain, it turned out, was a hell of a teacher. Natalie kept her word. She took the post down. She also stopped trying to fix the story. I think she realized that part of loving someone, really loving them, means letting them stay gone if that's what they need. We didn't talk often, but when we did, it was honest. No guilt. No manipulation. Just two people sharing space without expectation. Jamie called me every couple weeks. He was 12 now, funny, awkward, too smart for his own good. He told me about his math teacher, his new skateboard, how he and a friend were working on a comic book. He always ended our calls the same way. "You still singing, Grandpa?" Every damn day, I'd say. There was one Saturday he surprised me. Natalie brought him into the city without warning. I was mid-song, something old and bluesy, when I looked up and saw him standing there with a backpack and a giant grin, like he'd just found treasure. "Grandpa," he ran over, and I nearly dropped my guitar trying to hug him. I held him longer than I probably should have. Didn't care who saw. Natalie hung back, watching. She didn't interrupt. Didn't try to join the moment. Just gave me a small nod and mouthed, "Thank you." That was enough. I took Jamie to the cafe. Regina gave him hot chocolate with extra whipped cream. He asked 1,000 questions. I answered every one. Later, as they were leaving, he turned and said, "I want to play guitar like you." "You will," I told him. "But first, learn how to listen. That's the real music." He nodded solemnly, like I'd just handed him some ancient family code. Maybe I had. That night, I sat in my little studio apartment with my guitar on my lap. The window cracked open to let in the hum of the city. I thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd built since. I didn't feel bitter anymore. Not even toward Natalie. We were who we were. I just couldn't live under the weight of her version of me. There's a freedom in choosing yourself, in not begging for acceptance, in realizing that just because someone shares your blood doesn't mean they get to write your story. I used to think forgiveness meant going back, returning to the people who hurt you just because they finally saw the bruise. But I learned something standing on those cold corners. Forgiveness is about release. And you don't owe anyone your ruin just to make them feel redeemed. I'm not a burden. I'm a man who refused to disappear quietly. Final reflections. 2 years ago, I left with nothing but a guitar and a heart full of disappointment. Now, I play for strangers who become family. I live in a place I pay for with songs. My grandson knows my voice, not from stories, but from the sound itself. Natalie and I will never be what we were. But there's a soft middle ground where we meet now. It's not home, but it's something. And that corner? It still belongs to me. YouTube call to action. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved just to find peace? Tell me your story in the comments. I read every one. And if this story reminded you of someone in your life, share it with them. Maybe they need to hear it too. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of healing, heartbreak, and the hard-won road to self-worth.